Hi guys, this is Mrs. Heisenbuttel, and today we're going to be talking about how to make any score work for any game in Scratch. So what I have here is I just have this random little sprite, and every time it gets clicked it makes a sound, and I want to turn this into a game with a score. So I click the green flag, it moves around, and then when I click it, it makes a noise. So now I need to incorporate a score. So this method works for any game where you want to create a score. The first thing you need is a variable. I'm going to make a variable that's called score. And I don't need to be super creative about it. It shows up here at the top, and then I need to do two things. The first thing is when I start my game, I want my score to be 0. So before I get to the forever loop, I'm going to make my variable here, which is called score, 0. Then I want to change the score by 1 every time it's clicked. So there's 1, 2, 3. So notice if I'm really fast, I can get like 2 clicks in at a time. But the general idea, this works for any score, is it doesn't matter what your action is. You have to set your score to 0 when you start, and then you have to find a spot to change the score. Then you can add things like if the score is greater than this or that. You can do other things. So that involves using your control blocks for an if-then. So if I put an if-then in here, then I can say, okay, great. Well, if, and I want to constantly look at this if-then to see if it matches. So then I can pull out an operator and say basically if score is greater than 5, then I can have it change the background to a different background, or I can have it play a special sound or stop the entire game, which I find useful for testing purposes is I go in and stop the whole game so that when I get to greater than 5, when score gets to greater than 5, then it should stop all. Okay, so if I reset and then and it should, there you go, stop the game. So that it no longer moves around because it stops everything from moving. So that's how I can tell that it works. This is the basics for how to get a score working in Scratch. And it doesn't matter what your game is, it works for all different kinds of actions. You just have to be really careful with your score that you're not being too complicated. Keep it simple and you'll be happy.